So this is a video analysis of my serve and Roger's serve. The footage of my serve was taken last year when I was trying to get better on my serving. So this year I'm going to take it another step further, just to try and get as close to Roger's serve as I possibly can. So let's start with the starting point of the serve. Pretty happy with that. It's pretty similar to Roger's. And as we roll it back a bit, we get to this point here. Again, pretty similar to Roger. Got my my shoulder down, my weight on my front foot, looking at the court. Here we can see at this point I'm starting to throw my ball toss already, and I'm looking at the sky, and Roger has still got his arm into the position. He hasn't thrown the ball up yet, so I need to hold that ball for a longer period of time. The racket is pointing down, same as Roger, exactly the same, but you can see I'm almost putting my weight back on my back foot, as regards to Roger is still sort of balanced really, and I feel like I'm coming back. My left shoulder is rising, and Roger's is still sort of downwards, so I need to work on that. This is key here. So I'm throwing my racket, my ball up already, and Roger's just starting to throw his, and this is a key point here. Roger, what he does, he flicks his racket, his wrist upwards in a slightly upwards motion, and what I do is I turn the racket, and too early I think. So if you can see here, this tells me that my throwing of the ball toss is a faster action than Roger's. Roger is more a deliberate, slow toss. So I need to, in order to get to the same as Roger, I need to slow my ball toss action slower. Also, my release is just below eye level, and my arm is bent. So I've got to keep that arm straight, like Roger does, and you'll see he releases his ball around about eye level, and he's hardly holding onto the ball. It's just delicately between his fingers and his thumb, and mine is sort of cupped, and his almost side on, slightly cupped but side on. So I need to work on that. So let's have a look at the release. The release is up. My racket is still slightly different to Roger's. Roger's racket is still pointing sort of downwards, and mine's coming up. And this is key here. My racket goes up, and Roger's he sort of brings it. You can see that he brings the racket with his wrist. He pulls it close, as mine just goes up. And a key thing to notice at this position, in the trophy position, is my racket's pointing upwards into the trophy position, and Roger's is his racket's pointing sort of to where the ball is, and mine isn't. So I need to sort that out. That's this key move here, where he flicks the racket and then pulls it into that position, is brilliant. I mean, it's absolutely perfect technique. Also, my tossing arm, once I release the ball, I don't carry the arm up, and that's as you can see by Roger there, the arm is pointing up and almost towards him, and he's got that lovely arc, his arm is in parallel with his side, and a good knee bend. I think our knee bends are pretty similar, not too bad at all. I think I'm not arching my back as much as Roger. I'm almost sitting down, as opposed to Roger he's really got a slightly better turn than I do. So I need to work on that. And this is key. So the trophy position, he holds it for slightly longer than I do, and then when I drag the racket back here, similar, but you can see because he's pointing his racket to the ball, it's a smoother turn to the lag position. It's a lovely action. I'm not far away, but I need to tilt my racket towards the ball more with my wrist, and this is something I'm going to work very hard to do. So let's get into the lag position. As you can see, Roger's arm stays, his hand stays behind his head, and mine sort of raises higher than Roger's does, even though the footage of Roger has been taken slightly over a higher shot than me. His arm is definitely staying further behind him, and mine is more coming up higher than his is. So we get into the lag position, and you can see his racket face is basically staying the same, and mine's sort of doing a turn, which is not too bad, but it needs to. I need to keep that wrist probably looser, and I'm tightening up on the grip at this point. The lift is pretty similar, so we're actually taking off the ground at similar points. Our chest is pretty similar. It's actually pretty similar. Roger's left arm is probably sticking out a little bit more than mine, but I'm not too worried too much about that. I'm just going to move this slightly over so I can see my contact points. Here we go. So, and that's pretty similar. And again, Roger's racket face is vertical, and mine is slightly tilting. So I need to, and that's coming from this point here. It's not as smooth coming through, and Roger's is actually perfect coming through there. That's pretty close. It's pretty similar to Roger's there. Quite happy about that stage of the serve. And then we come to the contact point. Again, pretty similar. The arms are nice and straight. The racket's coming through very similar to Rog. The only thing to notice is he almost bends when he jumps, he slightly bends his knee as he contacts, and mine are pretty straight. And the reason why he bends his knees and he sticks his butt out a bit enables him to generate more power with his body as he hits the ball. And I'm a little bit upright, so his chest is down compared to mine, and mine's a little bit upright, and his knees are bent, and his butt's out, and my legs are straight, and my butt isn't sticking out. So it's something I need to work on as well. Contact point, this is very similar. Here we can see Roger, he's basically hitting a kick and slice serve at the same time. So he's contacting the ball slightly underneath it and at the side at the same time. He does this a lot. That's why his serve is so accurate. I'm doing the same, trying to do the similar shot, similar serve. And as you can see, the racket comes through, and obviously his acceleration, looking at this, is faster than mine. So his racket's going to come down a lot quicker than mine. So his speed of arm, see that? There's a big difference between when he gets to this point and when I get to that point. And his arm throughout this stage here is straight all the time, and I start to bend the arm about here, so he keeps it straight, and the racket almost hits his shin. It's so close to it. Mine stays quite high, so I need to let that racket, the racket arm, and I sort of break the wrist a little bit too soon as well. He breaks his wrist not much at all, as you can see. It's just slightly. Mine is quite a lot, quite an abrupt bend of the wrist, and that's not going to help the shot, I don't think, and not going to help my balance. So when we finish on the we land basically at the same time. Thing to notice is leg kick. So one, his body position, because he's got to this point where he's contacting with his chest coming into the court, and mine's vertical. When he lands, he's landing with his chest downwards, and I'm landing quite upright. And he's got a better leg kick because of that, because his momentum is going forwards, and mine is a little bit sort of I go up, hit, and down, but his momentum is forwards into the ball with more power. Similar finish. I'm actually getting a ball out of my pocket straight away, so it's obviously the finish is not going to be the same as Roger, but my finish actually is, when I'm not getting a ball out of my pocket, it's very similar to Roger's finish, except for the leg kick. The leg kick needs to be more pronounced. The reason why you want a good leg kick is when you're on balance. So basically, when you bring your right leg across, as Federer's doing, well, he's not on this clip, but what he usually does is when he brings that across, he can split step instantaneously and get ready for the next shot. And that's why it's good. So let's go through the sequence again. So I need to work on a more deliberate ball toss as opposed to a quick ball toss. I need to release the ball eye level with a straight arm, as Roger's doing here. I need to kick back with the wrist a little bit more here and bring the racket to this area here, as opposed to upright, away from the body. And I need to keep that racket quite close, just behind my head. If I do that, I think this will happen, as you can see by Roger's action here. This will happen, and not what my action is, because it's too far away from my body. And as I say, when I get to this position here, it's pretty similar, as opposed to my arm is not as back as Roger's is. This is pretty close when we get to this sequence here, though, as opposed to Roger's chest going into the court and a more powerful leg kick.